there. Viewers of my other channel over at the Big Daddy D Reviews 1 will know that I was back in Poundland recently, where they had even more WWE DVDs than before. This time, Poundland had the best of WrestleMania 1 to 14, a couple of Stone Cold Steve Austin specials in the form of Austin vs McMahon and Austin 316 Uncensored, the best of Survivor Series 87 to 97, an Undertaker special, The Phenom, and a few remaining copies of the Three Faces of Foley, which I covered in my last WWE DVDs at Poundland video. So I bought all 5 of these DVDs. Before I put them away for stocking fillers, for me of course, I'm going to review each one of them in turn. So, to begin with, we have Austin 316 Uncensored, which is essentially part 2 of an ongoing series of profiles featuring Stone Cold Steve Austin. This profile continues from where the 1997 release, 'Cause Stone Cold Said So, left off, and it showcases Austin's rise to the top of the Federation and the beginning of his feud with Vince McMahon. What we've got here are highlights of Austin's career from SummerSlam 97, through Royal Rumble 1998, all the way up to WrestleMania 14, where he won the title from Shawn Michaels, and up to Forgiven 1998. These highlights are spliced in among Steve Austin talking to Jim Ross about his neck injury, which nearly ended his career, and he also gives his uncensored opinions on the likes of Shawn Michaels and Vince McMahon, so he doesn't exactly mince his words there. A good video profile of the Texas Rattlesnake, and it makes me hope that Poundland will also get hold of the previous Austin release, 'Cause Stone Cold Said So, along with the follow-up to this, Hell Yeah. I enjoyed this disc a lot, so it gets a score of 5 stunners out of 5, and the rest of the DVDs I'm going to review here will be rated in the same way. Austin vs McMahon goes into more detail on the feud between the Texas Rattlesnake and the WWF chairman. Included on here are such moments where Austin drives a truck into the ring and sprays McMahon with beer, as well as getting him arrested, pissing his pants, and generally embarrassing the hell out of him. You'll see a lot of the stuff here that was shown on the Best of Raw Volume 1 from the previous Poundland haul, so this only gets 4 stunners. But this disc is still a great look at one of the greatest rivalries in WWE history. Undertaker The Phenom is another profile video, similar to Austin 316 Uncensored, and to the Mick Foley and Rock DVDs I reviewed in my previous video. Here we get highlights of some of the Undertaker's best matches between 1996 to 1998, as he battles Mankind in such brutal matches as the Boiler Room Brawl, the first ever Buried Alive match, and of course the infamous Hell in a Cell match. To be honest, you could fill an entire DVD purely with Undertaker vs Mankind matches, but there's more to be had here too. For not only do you get highlights of Taker's Hell in a Cell match with Mankind, but also his Hell in a Cell match with Shawn Michaels as well, which was actually the first ever Hell in a Cell to be sanctioned in the WWE. This then leads on to his ongoing feud with his deranged brother Kane, where he battles him at WrestleMania 14 and at Unforgiven 1998 in the first and only Inferno match. Again, these are only match highlights, but this is one of the better Undertaker DVDs I've come across. So much that I give it 5 stunners. The next 2 DVDs highlight a particular event on the WWE calendar rather than an individual wrestler. First up, the best of WrestleMania 1 to 14, which presents us with, surprisingly enough, highlights of the best matches from the first 14 WrestleManias. Well, okay, the best matches is going to be a bit questionable, we'll come on to that in a moment. I'm sure that if you actually wanted all 14 of these WrestleManias in full, then you'd get one of the WrestleMania Anthology box sets. So yeah, you only get highlights here. The selection of match choices are, as you'd expect, very good, as we see Hulk Hogan vs King Kong Bundy in the Steel Cage at WrestleMania 2, Hulk vs Andre from WrestleMania 3, the ladder match between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon at WrestleMania 10, Stone Cold Steve Austin vs Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13, and Austin vs Michaels at WrestleMania 14, with Mike Tyson as the special enforcer referee. However, what is puzzling here is that some of the WrestleManias have 3 or 4 matches shown, whilst others only had 1 or 2. Only 1 match was shown from arguably the most famous WrestleMania, in WrestleMania 3. Yes, we see Hulk vs Andre, but wrestling fans will be surprised to see that Randy Savage vs Ricky Steamboat, also from WrestleMania 3, and one of the greatest matches of all time, is not featured on this disc. A similar occurrence happens again later on the disc, where you get the ladder match between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon at WrestleMania 10, but not Bret Hart versus Owen Hart. Again, from that same event. We do get the WWF title match in WrestleMania 4 between Savage and DiBiase, and from WrestleMania 6 between Hogan and Warrior. But the WWF title match isn't even shown from WrestleMania 9. Instead, we get footage of that god-awful Undertaker versus Giant Gonzalez match. Here's a hint to the WWE. No DVD with the title Best Of should ever include a fucking Giant Gonzalez match. Oh yes, the same thing happens for WrestleMania 11. Again, no WWF title match, but the bloody Bam Bam Bigelow versus Lawrence Taylor match. Why was this match on here? I could spend all day telling you what matches should and should not have been included in this disc, but that would get boring after a while, and, you know, I get that you can't possibly cover the history of WrestleMania in a mere hour and a half. So you would have to be a bit ruthless and maybe feature only one match from each WrestleMania. So, okay, although you get Hulk vs. Andre from WrestleMania 3, you don't get Savage vs. Steamboat. But then, if that is the rule in here, why do they then include both Austin vs. Michaels and Undertaker vs. Kane from WrestleMania 14? There seems to be a reoccurring theme throughout the disc where WWE chooses to belittle the former WWF stars from the 80s and 90s, who, at the time the DVD was originally produced, were working for WCW, i.e. Hogan, Savage, Flair, Nash, Bret, etc. It's not a bad history lesson of WrestleMania, but this DVD is one for casual fans only, methinks, as it is spoilt a bit by the WWE's own pettiness. Hardcore, diehard WWE fans like myself will might get a little bit annoyed by this, shall we say. For that, it only gets 3 stunners. I should have scored it less, mainly because of the inclusion of Giant Gonzalez and his airbrushed arse crack. But the rest of the matches were enough to save it. Just. Finally, we come to the Best of Survivor Series, 1987 to 1997. Although for some strange reason, it chooses to miss out the 1988 and 1992 editions, both of which had good matches, such as the 20-man tag team match of Survival from 1988, or Bret vs. Shawn from 1992. Which was a far superior match to the one that took place in 97 in Montreal, but we'll come on to that in a moment. Again, I feel that the match selection is rather questionable here. We could have done without Bam Bam Bigelow vs. Goldust. Why is it that when they choose to include Bam Bam Bigelow in these best of DVDs, they feature some of his worst bloody matches? To be honest, I would have rather have seen Bigelow's team versus the 4 Doinks instead in that particular match of Survival. I also don't like that they chose to end this DVD with the Montreal Screwjob and Vince McMahon's own bullshit story on it. Again, I could spend all day talking about which matches should and should not have been included here. And whilst the best of WrestleMania is an hour and a half, the best of Survivor Series is merely an hour. Yes, we do get some good match highlights here, such as Dusty Rhodes' Dream Team versus the $1 Million Team, which included the Undertaker's debut. We also get Undertaker versus Hulk Hogan, where Taker won the title for the first time. Bret Hart versus Bob Backlund. The Ultimate Warriors team versus Andre the Giant's team. Hulk's team versus Andre's team. The Hart family versus Shawn Michaels and his Knights, which included Owen turning on his brother. Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin in their grudge match from 1996. Kane versus Mankind. Owen Hart versus Austin. Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels. Again, the Montreal Screwjob from 97. Again, their match from 1992 was far superior to this, and that should have been included instead. Whilst the matches I've just mentioned there may look like a good solid bunch of matches, and they are, even if we are only getting highlights, the hour running time does kill it. And again, we're getting the same kind of pettiness in this disc as what we did with the Best of WrestleMania as well. Therefore, this only gets 2 stunners. In conclusion, it's a pretty good selection of DVDs that Poundland are doing at the moment. Certainly worth picking up the Austin and Undertaker ones, absolutely, if you only have to get a couple of them. WrestleMania Survivor Series, I would say leave them on the shelf, but considering they're only going for £1, then yeah, go for them as well. Yep, not a bad selection there, and hopefully Poundland might even do some more. These are only featured in the larger Poundland stores, so if you're going to a smaller one, you're not guaranteed to get these showing here, so you might have to pop off to a much larger one. But very pleased with these, and I'm going to pop them away now in my stocking and wait for Santa Claus to bring them on Christmas Eve. But until next time, this is the Big Daddy D signing out. Goodbye.